Hey, nerdy sports fan here. We're talking Week 13 NFL action, and in this one we have the Raiders going on the road to visit the Chiefs. And man, do I want so badly to say I picked the Raiders in this game. But based off of their performance last week against the Jets, I can't do that. I just can't. The Raiders were in prime position to take this division by the throat. Even record with the Chiefs going into the Arrowhead Stadium in a late season game that really matters. It was all laid out there for them. And then they just stunk it up against the Jets of all teams. Come on, the Jets? Seriously. Their number one excuse for being as bad as they are this season is a quarterback having mono. You got to be bad to lose to a team like that. I mean, I can't say bad. The Raiders are actually a pretty good team. They're just inconsistent right now. The team's very young, and I have no faith in Derek Carr's ability as a leader. He is a talented quarterback, but when the chips are down, that guy folds. He's just... There's not the fire in him that I see in players like Tom Brady, like Josh Allen, like Pat Mahomes. There's a lot of quarterbacks that have come into the league that just have got a swagger to them that Derek Carr never had. He's a very capable quarterback. And one day he's probably going to make a very good coach. But man, that fire that drives you to win a game that you really shouldn't, he just doesn't have it. So they have a huge advantage, the Raiders do. Josh Jacobs against the Kansas City defense. Kansas City can't stop any running backs. They just can't. They couldn't last year. They tried to fix the defense in order to do it, but they can't this year either. They are giving up 143 yards on the ground. That is the number one reason I would have told you that the Raiders could have won. And I still think that if the Raiders miraculously pull this one out of their asses, it'll be because of Josh Jacobs against this defense. Chiefs defense is awful. I just don't see them having it in them. And there's a lot of quit in Derek Carr. It's the reason Gruden pulled him. All right? So, Raiders have a very strong rushing attack. Chiefs have a very weak running defense. Advantage Raiders. The Chiefs pass for over 300 yards a game. The Raiders are giving up almost 300 yards a game. They have a very bad pass defense. With some young players that have some talent who create turnovers. It's a weird dynamic there. They give up all sorts of yards. But anytime Phillip Rivers is around, they pick him off all the time. But, everybody's doing that to Phil right now. So maybe that's not necessarily the metric we should be judging the defense off of. Pat Mahomes is not Phillip Rivers. Pat Mahomes is... Well, he's got arm talent still. And that makes a big difference. So, the Chiefs, you can't really point to Andy Reid and his staff and say, man, they're going to produce a winner. Because when they get into the playoffs and they get into Super Bowls, Andy Reid hasn't necessarily done as good as he should. So, any sort of grit, any sort of fire that drags this team across, the victory stripe, you're talking about coming from Pat Mahomes. Now, he's going to need to step up. He's going to need to be the leader in the locker room, the voice that even dominates the coach. So, this is the time of year that sort of thing starts to happen. And against the Raiders, who just, they're reeling from that loss to the Jets, I think this is the perfect game to really step in, kick this team in the ass, and drag them into the playoffs. Because there's no way they should have 4 losses right now, but they do. And they can't lose games like this if they really want to do some damage come playoff time. They're going to have to deal with road games this year. And they lost at home last year. So, yeah, it's a different kind of playoff experience that they're going to have, and they better be ready for it. And they got to start by stepping on the throat of teams like the Raiders. I think they're going to do it. I really do. But I think the Raiders have a great opportunity to run the ball all over Kansas City and erase the doubts of last game and take control of this division. It's a very coin flip kind of game. It matters which Raider team shows up. That's it. You know, if Derek Carr sacks up and steps in as the leader he needs to be, they're going to win. I just don't see him doing that. So, fantasy football-wise, this is, I mean, I understand Josh Jacobs is questionable, but he's very likely to play, so put him in there confidently because this is exactly the team you want to start him against. He's going to put up some numbers. You're worried about Hunter Renfrow. So as far as receiving targets in Oakland, it's really just the tight end, Waller, I want to say, that's going to give you any sort of consistency. Otherwise, it's been a mishmash of who does well and who doesn't. So there's no real consistency there. Taylor Gabriel, not Gabriel. Goddamn, what am I thinking of? One of the guys from the Chargers. Either way, it doesn't matter. Waller's the only consistent person you can depend on receiving target-wise, so throw the tight end in. But as far as receivers go, Renfrow would have been the guy, but he's hurt. Kansas City, Hill might play. And if he does, guaranteed win. But it's dicey. It's dicey. So, yes, Pat Mahomes is always a guaranteed start. Kelce is a lock in a game like this. He really is. With what the Raiders give up to tight ends, give up over the middle, Kelce is going to feast. So, you know, normally he's just got a really high floor. You're going to see the ceiling in this game. Kelce is just going to dominate this secondary. They don't have anybody that can match up against him. And, you know, Hill, you worry about injury-wise. Watkins, you worry about injury-wise. So Robinson, throw him in there. He did great when Hill was out for suspension earlier in the season. Watkins did better, but Robinson did great. So, yeah, throw him in there. As far as running backs go, there's a lot of questions there, too. Is it McCoy? Is it Williams? Is it the other Williams? My money's on Damian Williams. Damian Williams will get the bulk of the carries. But, I mean, it's so helter-skelter. I avoid Kansas City running backs if I can. If you have somebody on your team like Josh Jacobs, that's obviously the guy in the backfield, great. Put him in. Personally, I recommend Bo Scarborough or Jonathan Williams, the injury replacements for the Colts and the Lions, if they are still available, instead of starting a committee running back from Kansas City. So, as far as the line goes, the Chiefs are 10-point favorites. That's an insult to the Raiders. Okay? The Raiders' running game matches up so well against this defense. There's no way in hell the Chiefs have that big of a lead at the end of the game. I think the Chiefs are going to win. I really do. Because the leadership at quarterback is far superior in Kansas City than it is in Oakland. And games like this is where leadership matters. So, I think Kansas City is going to win. They're not going to dominate. Their defense is going to get run all over. So they're going to win, but they're going to win by a little bit. I bet the Raiders in this game all day. They're going to beat a 10-point spread. Hit up the rest of my videos for more fantasy football advice, and check out my post-game video for Dallas getting lumped up on by my Buffalo Bills.